Welcome to the Dentist News Network. I'm Scott Drake. Today we're talking about the treatment modalities of incipient caries, or early stage decay in teeth. My guest is Dr. Roger Briggs with Briggs Family and Cosmetic Dentistry in Scottsdale, Arizona. Dr. Briggs, good to see you again. Thanks for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So let's talk about how this type of decay or early stage decay is typically treated.
Decay is started by a particular bacteria that if you feed it sugar, it produces a lot of acid. So the acid, because our teeth are minerals, the acid begins to dissolve the minerals out of our tooth. The outer layer of the tooth is covered with enamel, and then the inner portion of the tooth is dentin. The outer portion of the tooth is the hardest substance in your body, and that acid process can get started in that enamel, and if it hasn't broken through into the inner layer of dentin, that's described as incipient caries or incipient decay. If it breaks through into the dentin, it's got a full head of steam, and unquestionably in any dental school, the teaching is that needs to be cleaned out and have a filling done. The incipient side of it is where the acid is still in the enamel, and in many cases that process of decay can stop. Maybe the person changes their diet, maybe they start flossing better. There's a number of things that can make that process stop. And so when we look at incipient decay, a lot of dentists are alarmed by any kind of decay. And so the question becomes, do we fill or do we treat incipient decay as opposed to one of the run-of-the-mill regular big old cavities?
Dr. Briggs, what do you see in your practice?
Well, if I've got a very young person that has a lot of decay areas in their mouth, and many of them that have broken through into the dentin, I'm more inclined to be more proactive and treat the incipient areas. There's science that's coming through now where a lot of those incipient areas can be treated with a process where we're not drilling into the tooth. And when you drill into a tooth and you put a filling, that filling is something that down the road is going to need to be replaced, and need to be replaced maybe more than once or twice or even 3 or 4 times in a lifetime. And you know how that is. They get bigger, and that's not a desirable thing. So if we can fix incipient caries with processes that don't require drilling, that can be of a benefit.
Can you discuss some of the new diagnostic technology available?
Yeah, that's a good question. The diagnosis of these is still the good old dental x-ray. They're starting to develop some, believe it or not, infrared detectors that when you have active decay, it gets a little bit warmer, and so these very, very sensitive detectors can detect it. All kinds of research always going on with that. We have a little thing called a diagnodent, so we don't have to poke into the tooth anymore with the Explorer. In many cases, we can be even more accurate with that. It's a laser beam that's shined on the tooth, and that will tell us about decay. So a lot of areas that are coming at us right and left to help us diagnose whether or not we have active decay or if it's incipient.
The overwhelming message I get from all of our interviews, Dr. Briggs, is that people need to see the dentist on a regular basis, right?
Yeah, the regularity, believe it or not, that plays a big role in my professional judgment as to whether or not an incipient lesion needs active treatment or whether it can be monitored. Obviously, if somebody's got any kind of disease, from cancer to decay, if we think there's something there and we think the patient's not going to follow up and provide themselves with further diagnostic efforts 6 months or a year down the road, then that's something that we're going to want to fix for the patient, because it may get bad, and that's not a good thing to let things go.
All right, Dr. Briggs, thank you.
It's been my pleasure, Scott.
My guest has been Dr. Roger Briggs with Briggs Family and Cosmetic Dentistry in Scottsdale, Arizona. You're watching the Dentist News Network.